Hey there, guys. Welcome to Cosmetic Pros. I'm here today to speak with Joseph Porter from Cosmedicheck. I'm very excited to chat with you, Joe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate you having us.
So, I know you've been working on it quite a while. You're kind of going a bit more with the formal launch now for
Yeah.
Cosmedicheck, which is, I think, a very important service and, directory, more than a directory, really. It's kind of a safety check and regulation. So I think we're definitely going to talk on that. But first, let's get a little bit, to know a bit about Joseph, the man behind it. What brought you to the sort of cosmetic industry, and how did we get here in the first place?
So I kind of fell into the cosmetic industry in 2019. Before that, I'd been in construction for nearly 10 years. After leaving the forces, I went back into construction, and my partner to date has got a well-established cosmetic clinic she's had for around 10 years. What happened, I used to finish on site on a late night clinic. So I would come down and sort of help out, just sweeping up and just help out really. And I noticed rather quickly how happy everyone was in the cosmetic industry. The clients were coming in, they were all buzzing to come in and have a procedure done. They were looking forward to the experience, they were looking forward to the result. And then afterwards they were glowing, they'd leave happy. And it sort of it almost instantly become a light bulb moment where I thought, do you know what? I'm doing a job that I don't really enjoy. Everyone's always miserable. They're always moaning. I've sort of experienced this other industry where everyone's happy. They come in happy. They leave happy. And it wasn't long after that whilst I was still full-time working on sites and managing developments, that I looked into how I could get more involved in the industry. So I went off and I started researching it. And I didn't want to do any training through my partner because it was a bit of a conflict. So there's a really good training academy that I used where I'd done my pathway to aesthetics by doing 6 months needle experience. So I started in SPMU in semi-permanent makeup microblading. So I did that for 6 months to then enable me to start my journey into aesthetics, which took me a further year by the time I'd done my anatomy and physiology. I'd done all my assessments, my case studies. I'd been in and been assessed in what I was doing, and then I was under the watchful eye of other practitioners to make sure I was competent to get all my certificates and stuff. So by the time I'd done that, it was 2020. Then just after that, we obviously had COVID come in, and that was life-changing for all of us. But what I noticed in between me transitioning from my old career to this amazing new career in industry was the amount of people that were coming through the door who had procedures before. A lot of them weren't first timers. They'd have had some sort of cosmetic treatment before or procedure, and most of them had bad experiences or experiences which they weren't overly happy with the results, or they would talk to you about the process and it just didn't quite sound right. And the more I've been in the industry since, and I've sort of realized that it's quite normal for this to happen. At the time, I really couldn't understand it, why there's no legislation, there's no licensing, there's nowhere really for people to go in and to look more into the people they're trusting with their faces and bodies for these procedures or treatments. And that kind of gave me the idea that there needs to be something for consumers as much as there does professionals. So that's how my journey sort of started into cosmetics. And though now I still work in a clinic, I do less on the needle now and more of the overall running of the clinics we have. And then with the other 50% of my time, we spend on Cosmedicheck. So just building the brand awareness and trying to help clients make the right decisions with trusted local professionals, really. So that's how it fell into my lap. In the more I looked into it, the more I saw a need for it, and it sort of snowballed from there, really.
I think that's really good to know that your journey through, you're coming from a position of experience. I know there's a lot of kind of nothing similar to Cosmedicheck, but sometimes directories get put up. It's
Yeah,
quite easy to just throw up a directory, but
yeah,
not necessarily people with the same insight, with the same expertise. And I think that's kind of where Cosmedicheck is going to lead the way and has a very different outlook. And I think the fact that you're from the industry, obviously you're very involved with well known and respected in the industry, kind of having the people
yeah,
behind it. Yeah, I think that's very much going to be a leading force. So let's go move on to Cosmedicheck a bit from yours. And some of the concerns that you were talking about, I know particularly around like the needle-based treatments.
yeah.
Do you want to sort of elaborate a bit on that and maybe outline, how Cosmedicheck can be the sort of difference for the client and for the professional?
Yeah, of course. So what we've sort of noticed is there is, like you rightly say, there's a couple of other directories and registers about, but they are all medic related. Now, before we get into the big debate about the medic, the non-medic, for anyone who knows or doesn't know, there's a bit of friction between medic and non-medic within non-surgical cosmetic treatments. I see both sides of the fences. We have colleagues who are medics, we have colleagues who are non-medics, we are non-medics ourselves. There's a big divide between who believes should be doing procedures and who believe that certain individuals or certain groups as non-medics shouldn't be. So there's a big government survey that's just been completed at the moment. So it's all a little bit up in the air. We can touch on that in a little while. But from my point of view, I don't think clients, and I sometimes don't think people who come into this industry realize how daunting it is to one, inject people in the face. It's not something you pick up and do overnight. It takes time to get confident in doing it. There's a lot more involved than what you see from an experienced practitioner who can quite easily do a procedure in 15, 20 minutes. With regards to SPMU, semi-permanent makeup or permanent makeup, it can have some real life-changing complications and effects on people if it's done poorly, if it's done too deeply. So what we are trying to achieve is a basis where we are doing the utmost we can to vet the individual businesses. So when we first started out, we'd approach insurance companies to make sure that companies are insured. The problem we were having at the time is because of the 2018 GDPR Act, insurance companies aren't allowed to give information out about individuals or businesses without their consent. So we have to kind of go back to the drawing board with our applications and ensure that everyone who wanted to apply to become a professional in Cosmedicheck were given us the authority to check this. So what we've managed to do over the past year is build some really strong relationships and partnerships with insurance companies to check qualifications, to check insurance documents, to make sure their insurance endorsements are correct, so we can approve the specific treatments on Cosmedicheck. So this is kind of where we become more than just a directory. We are everything cosmetic and medical, but we also ensure that insurance is up to date, it's valid, it's relevant, they've got the right permits, they've got local tattoo permits if they're in an area where they're required. We're checking qualifications. So it's so much more than just somewhere to search for a local practitioner. It really is, for a client point of view, it's about consumer safety. And from a professional point of view, it's about having somewhere online that you've been verified. Because, like I say, with the medic, non-medic friction and the web directories that are currently in place, they won't entertain non-medics. So it means that such a large proportion of the industry doesn't have anywhere where they can show that they are an accredited professional. And just because they're a non-medic, it doesn't mean that they are any worse than a medic, because the specific training you need to have, whether you're a medic or non-medic background, it should be the same level. So someone being a midwife, I'll take my hat off to them, and then injecting someone's face, it's two different areas of expertise, same as a GP. You know, a general practicing doctor doesn't necessarily have the skill set to inject someone's face as much as, you know, someone who might they used to have been a estate agent, or they were in another role and then had decided to do the appropriate training and get into cosmetics and injectables. So it's a real slippery slope within the industry, and there's some real taboos, but there shouldn't be. And Cosmedicheck isn't a biased platform, providing our professionals can prove where they've done their training, their certification is valid, their insurance is in date. We check all of this and vet it before they become a professional with us. So, like I say, clients do have peace of mind that they are finding local trusted professionals, and we've got the consent to check this document and these, you know, these qualifications going forward. It's not just an Instagram ad or, you know, a social media ad, Google placement where people are promoting their services. We are physically doing these verifications and checks for safety and, you know, to bring the standard of the industry up for non-medics as well as medics in one community.
Yeah, I think that's good, bringing the community together. Certainly, like you touched on the divide there. I'm in quite a few forums, and that quite a lot of time can kind of get lost where really everyone in the industry wants the same outcome. You know, they want to be properly qualified, properly trained, and,
Yeah,
you know, good work for client, because, you know, bad work on clients is just bad for the industry as a whole, because it's going to put people off, you know, getting it. If they see like, oh no, that's what's going to happen to me if I get that treatment,
mm.
they're going to be less likely. So yeah, as an industry, it's in everyone's interest. I think there's a lot of confusion I think I see in the forums at most. It's like from both professional and client sides, what is the right training? What is the right licensing? Are they, you know, do they need insurance for that? Do they need insurance for this? So I think, you know, even on the professional side, if they've got somewhere they can go, and, you know, sometimes it might not be, because it is a bit confusing, they might not necessarily know, oh, actually, I should have had this done, I should have gone with this trainer. So having that sort of third party who's kind of independent and has a
Yeah,
more oversight that they can kind of go in and get help and support from, I think is going to be a great asset to the industry and the individual. And then I think as you become more known for the clients, knowing they can actually go there and they don't have to do as much homework themselves because they've kind of got a trusted thing. I think, you know, similar in like plumbing, we've got like check a trade, trust a trader.
yeah,
There's not really anything as such like that in aesthetics or permanent makeup industries at the moment. So I think bringing forward and having those checks and balances in place is a really good project to be working
yeah.
on. And I think in some
It,
ways more important.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say about the permanent makeup. To touch on briefly, they did actually bring that into the boroughs of London with permanent makeup, but it never seemed to have, it never branched off anywhere else. So the government sort of brought this in, and with that type of treatment, it works under the Tattoo Act still. But unless you're in a borough of London, you don't seem to find any other county or region that you need to have, you know, any sort of licensing, which is in itself quite crazy, because even though it's classed as semi-permanent, a lot of the time, depending on the depth the pigment's place, it can be more permanent than not, and there is always reconstructions that go alongside that. So yeah, it's definitely a minefield, and like you've just touched on with other industries, there are governing bodies and licensing schemes and companies there to help consumers. And up until this point, with an industry that can cause, you know, such life-changing, it can have such life-changing effects on people physically and mentally, it blows my mind that up until sort of Cosmedicheck, there isn't anything to combat that.
I think, yes, probably need a bit of, you know, help from above as well. It's like, yeah, the consistency. And I think that does like lead to the confusion of what people can and can't do or should and shouldn't do.
Mm.
I think I know similar in scalp micropigmentation, SMP, which is kind of a bit similar to the permanent makeup side. I know there's kind of a push now with like the off-call training and
Yeah.
sort of that. So yeah, I think there is, you know, the government moves slowly, so I think they are kind of doing things, but yeah, not probably not
I
as quick as
think
they should
in
be.
their defense, Yeah, I mean, I always think it's a very difficult one because it's not something that you can bring out overnight, but it's not now a new thing, people having cosmetic treatments and procedures. So there should have been something in place before now. We have just had the open survey by the Department of Health and Social Care, which came out on the 2nd of September 2023, which ran until the 28th of October, which was proposing a traffic light system for what procedures were deemed green, amber, or red, and there were stipulations around each. From the last time I looked on the Department of Health and Social Care website, they are saying that it's going to be 2024, 2025 before they collate all the information, before a proposed licensing scheme is going to be in place. We have quite a few individual businesses reach out to us and ask constantly about the level 5 and level 7, which is for aesthetics and injectables. It's being proposed as the qualification to bring non-medics in line with medics. But like you've just touched on there, Matt, until we get some guidance from the government, no one really knows. So there's a lot of people spending a lot of money to do this training. And even though it looks like it's going to go that way, until it's been confirmed, it's still a bit of a risk people are taking, spending upwards of sort of £8,000 over 2 years to do this training without any guidance. And it's kind of the same for the insurance companies with insuring mobile practitioners. When we've ever had conversations with the insurance companies and sort of said, what's your stipulations? They're led by the government placed rules, but because there isn't any, it's almost like a little bit of a grey area for everyone, because no one really knows what to expect, what's coming in, what licensing there's going to be, what insurance you need, what qualifications you need, what training you should need. So it is a little bit of a mess at the moment, but I think we're all hopeful that something does come in and, it will benefit us all. It won't penalise us, and it will be there for consumer safety, because ultimately that's what this industry needs, and that's what the focus should be about.
So what would you just summarize as the core goals of Cosmedicheck, and how would you measure it as success? Say we're looking like a year from now, 18 months, what does a successful Cosmedicheck look like?
So Cosmedicheck has been in motion for coming up to 3 years now. So it's been slowly developed, in as much as the fact that as a aesthetic practitioner myself, I'm very aware of a lot of the costs which go out, what a lot of clinics would benefit from. So we wanted to include those sort of things in Cosmedicheck. So as much as Cosmedicheck is a directory for cosmetic and medical professionals, it also has a booking system if people wanted to book clients in. It's got services and treatments on there, price lists, clinic locations, opening times, bios, awards, education sections that you can put on there for clients. It's got a photo gallery so our clients can see practitioners' work. So we really wanted to embed everything that we use ourselves as a clinic to put out there to professionals. So that's why we've been building the way we have, and we've already got a licensing scheme built in, ready for anything that may come up. And with regards to where we see Cosmedicheck, I mean, because we're building a community, we are looking to gain more professionals, who want to sign up, because whilst there is no legislation, no one really knows what they should be doing. So that's kind of why we want to help these professionals by joining Cosmedicheck, to say, look, we are on a register. We do have our insurance checked. We do have our documentation checked. We have provided this information. So there is a basis. And as much as that, the other side of the coin flip is we want clients to be going on and leaving reviews for the professionals that they visit and being able to search for local practitioners. So I guess within the next year, we just want to organically grow Cosmedicheck, so people are aware that there are options out there. You don't have to just go to the cheapest option, because like we know with anything in life, there's normally a reason something is significantly cheaper than something else, a service, a product. And it's really just about educating practitioners and also the clients. So I guess a year from now, it'd be nice to say that we've got a strong community and we're working together, both medic, non-medic, and with clients and patients, consumers, to have this community that no matter what comes out of the licensing, that everything we're doing for a passion of love through our business in the industry we love being in. But ultimately, it all comes down to consumer safety, and we're taking steps to ensure that.
I think as you build and grow and get that user base, and I think people sort of actively using it is, like we kind of touched on, is going to benefit the industry as a whole. I think being able to have, like you said, like the reviews and the bookings, I think they're very good features to have. Like this stuff costs money to kind of get done. The lots of different software. If you're going to have like an app for booking, an app for doing your posting, somewhere else on social to show your pictures and stuff. So kind of having somewhere that's relatively low cost is going to be an added bonus to the professionals on that. So what, as a business owner, obviously you've kind of worked in clinic, you've worked in, bringing Cosmedicheck to market and kind of going with a more sort of formal launch.
Yeah.
What have been kind of the main struggles, as, being self-employed? What have you kind of learned along the way from going from that sort of paid work to, doing it for yourself and having to overcome certain things?
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting one. I was thinking about this the other day. Because the majority of my working life, I have always been employed, you do kind of get used to, you're going to get paid the end of the month. You know what you're going to get paid. So I think a real dynamic shift for me was when I made the move over to leave the safety net, as it were, of getting paid every month. That process, my whole sort of mindset had changed, because it had to. I had to generate my own leads. I had to invest in myself for it to benefit our clients. So it was a real eye opener to have to do that. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, especially in the aesthetics or non-surgical procedure sector, is it's not always easy. People, all you ever see in the marketing terms is earn £10,000 a month, and don't get me wrong, some people do earn that, but what you don't see is having a clinic space is like having another mortgage, having the PPE costs, having insurance costs, having product costs. So I think it's a big eye opener when you see the amount it takes to get up and have that drive every day to get new leads, especially for people who are joining the industry. You're not going to have full clinics all the time. You have to work at it. You might have to pay a social media company. You might have to generate SEO or, pay for a website. So I think for me, a big learning curve was going from always having the security and never the worry of that side of things to, oh, I've now got to do this, I've got to do that. And I think yourself included, and if you spoke to any other business owner, it's never like a 9 to 5. You're always on the go, and it's always 7 days a week. So it's not for everyone. It really isn't for everyone. And I've kind of learned that over the last few years. And I think my biggest struggle with Cosmedicheck over the last 3 years is trying to get other people to understand the need and have the passion to help me along the way to generate this great platform that is today, because it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. We've had a lot of setbacks and stuff along the way to get it to where it is. So I think my biggest struggle has been understanding that things don't always happen first time. And as a business owner, you have to just keep working away at it, and you have to keep finding that drive to go, yeah, well, that might have beaten me yesterday, but it's not going to today. And I think as long as you can do that as a business owner, hopefully things should always come good. But that's been my biggest learning curve, I'd say, is really when you're out there by yourself, and especially in this industry, a lot of people are lone working, so they don't have a support network, for example. So you find people going to forums and stuff. Sometimes forums aren't the most positive places to be at the best of times. So I'd say I've been very fortunate because I've joined a clinic, an already established clinic, and there's two of us here. There's someone else starting soon. We've got other colleagues who work out of the clinic. So we can have a bit of banter and we can talk about our own individual needs and what we're going through. A lot of people in this industry don't have that because, like I say, they're working by themselves. So it can be quite lonely at times. I think that's something to bear in mind. But, you know, you're not by yourself. There are forums, there are communities, and that's what we're trying to build with Cosmedicheck, is a community. It's more than just a business. It's by the people, for the people. We're in the same position, and we're trying to build a platform that is going to benefit everyone, really.
I think lack of support, especially when starting out, is definitely a big thing. You know, and a lot of it, like you kind of said there, is just, you know, showing up every day sometimes.
Yeah.
I think been in business myself quite a long time now. And yeah, sometimes I do feel like I'm still just making it up as I go along with it. You know, because
Yeah.
it is just every day is different, or you think you've got, you know, one thing planned and, you know, something will go wrong. And, you know, when it's your business, the buck stops with you
Yeah.
essentially. You've got to be the one, you
Yeah,
know,
it
if you haven't got
does.
the money or resources, you know, to bring it out, you can't just clock off at 5 o'clock. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, certainly in what I do, quite often weekends, out of hours, just by the
Yeah.
nature of it, is when I'll have sort of contact. I mean, that's part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think anyone who kind of jumps into business thinking, at least at the start, it's going to be very easy. They're going to suddenly have loads of free time, gets woken up quite quickly.
Yeah.
I think so for people starting kind of, you know, I know you're quite familiar with a lot of people in the industry. So what would your be advice for someone starting getting into aesthetics or new, obviously, besides go and sign up on Cosmedicheck, what should they look for like in a trainer or kind of a pathway to getting into the industry? What kind of would be the first few things they should kind of make sure they line up in place?
I would say do your research. I think, like in anything in life, if you were buying a house, for example, you wouldn't go in, view it once and put an offer in. You know, you take your time to consider your options and, you know, what you would want spec wise from that house, the areas you're looking for, if there's good schools in the area. You do a lot of research. And I think any new career should be like that. And I'm a believer that since COVID and definitely during COVID, there was a lot of training going on where webinars were happening because we couldn't go out and this, that, and the other. So there was some subpar training being done. People didn't have models. It was a very difficult time for anyone. So I think the advice I would give people is do your research. You know, yeah, there's always going to be a company out there who are going to be considerably cheaper, but you've got to ask yourself, like with anything, the reason why a lot of the time you will pay a premium, and especially in this industry, is you're not always paying for the product. You're paying for the experience. You're paying for the knowledge of your practitioner, that if something does go wrong, God forbid, that practitioner is going to get you in straight away. They're going to solve the problem. If you've got any concerns, they are going to help you with the aftercare. They are going to come back to you straight away if you've got any worries. And I think anyone looking to get into this, and it is a fantastic industry. I wouldn't want to be in any other industry. It's fantastic. It has its faults, like all industries, but I think it really is sitting down and working out what you want to achieve. For a lot of people, when they start, you're not going to have a full client book. You're not. It takes years to build. And then when you've got existing clients and they're happy with your service, they come back on a yearly basis or they come up for their top ups. But I really believe that you need to sit down and work out what you want to achieve. It might mean you work in another job whilst you're setting your business up, like I had to do. I did all my training out of hours, so I was still getting paid, but I could learn in the interim and then build my client base around that. So that might be an option. But I really think that having good training and good qualifications from that training is so imperative. So sometimes you look at training courses and you think, wow, that's a lot of money. And it can be, but it depends on the level of training you're getting. Like I say, it took me a solid year to get my accreditation in, you know, my field of, you know, dermal fillers and semi-permanent makeup. Some people do a fast track course in 5 days now. That's not necessarily wrong, but it's what information are you getting in those days? What models are you getting? You know, because ultimately you are working with the needles, so you need to be confident and feel confident, and that you've had the adequate training in what you're doing. So my advice really is research who you're looking to train with, look at a few different companies, compare between the two, the three, the four, make calls, you know, ask questions. And it sounds silly, but there is no such thing as a silly question. If you've got questions, a certain training company or offering a certain level of training and someone else is offering something else, just ask the question and speak to insurance companies. Say, look, I'm looking to do some training in dermal fillers. Have you got a recommended list? Most of the insurance companies have got a preferred training academy who they will nominate or they affiliate with. So that's always a good option. And then you know you're in safe hands with where you're training. You know you can get your insurance covered. But there's a lot of cost to it as well. It's not a cheap industry to get into. You know, you've got sharp spins, which are expensive. You've got clinical waste. You've got the products. You've got the PPE. There is a lot of expenditure, but it's so worth all of that and the struggle if you do it right. But you have to research what you're doing and specialize, I would say, as well. When you start, everyone gets the bug and thinks, oh, I want to train in 1,000 different things. But train in one thing and do that well and start getting good client feedback and repeat business. And then with the money you're earning from doing that one thing well, then reinvest in yourself, then put that into more training. Then you can do two things really well. And then I would say keep building like that. That's the best way to do things, is to learn something really well and be good at it. Don't do 10, 15 different things and not be very good at any of them. So yeah, it is tricky though. It is a tricky one.
Yeah, I think that last point was really good. That's actually something I see with kind of, like you said, like some of the newer people coming out. They kind of think doing another course is going to get them more clients suddenly when they haven't got enough clients for the treatment, they
Yeah.
initially started doing. And I kind of, say, if you're under sort of a certain amount of figures in your clinic a month, really no, we just need to do one ad campaign. We just need to do one focus, get yourself a load of models, be the best in your area of that,
Yeah.
get some consistent cash flow, then, use that to go and do some more training. Adding more courses or adding more treatments isn't going to magically, you'll end up with sort of one or two, again, just in each and everything. And I think you'll probably sort of know, it's certainly the same in my industry. It's like the economy of scale. If you've just got one or two people doing a certain treatment, everything's more expensive at that level. Whereas, if you've got 20 people a month coming in for exactly the same, that's going to bring your relative costs down. So the actual profit margins and stuff around that is going to be a lot better than, even if it's still only like 20 clients spread across 20 treatments. But if you've got like 20 clients on the one treatment, I think in most cases, the profit margins will be a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what does, when he's not busy working on Cosmedicheck and in the clinic all day, what's Joe get up to? Does he have spare time?
I'll let you know if I ever get any. No, do you know what? I love what I do, and like I say, it was the best decision I ever made. So I don't begrudge any of it. I can be working 18, 19 hours a day sometimes. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I like to make sure I know everything that's going on. I like to have the personal touch. So I'm blessed and grateful for it, and I wouldn't change that for the world. But yeah, when I do get some downtime, I am quite boring, to be honest. I enjoy the simpler things in life now. I've discovered recently I really enjoy reading or more audio books. So not even from just a business point of view, but I like to either when I'm driving or I try and work out every day because it's good for the endorphin release as well as working in. So if I'm spinning or something, I put an audio book on for half an hour and I listen to that. And I think it just sort of sets me up for the day. So I like to have a routine. I like to get to the end of the day and feel like I've achieved some good things in that day. So that's kind of what I try to do. I'll probably binge a little bit too much of Netflix when I do get some time off because I just want to unwind. Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? Like for me, I found the older I've gotten, the more you change your mindset and the sort of things you enjoy doing. So what I would have done 10 years ago of probably going out to the pub every Friday night, that sort of lifestyle doesn't interest me anymore. I'm about sort of self-growth and self-worth, meditation I've been trying recently and stuff like that. And I seem to get more of a buzz out of doing that sort of stuff because you're working on yourself more. I can then put more out. So that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy being at home. I enjoy cooking and enjoying the moments of peace in between the madness.
I agree with it's been a long time since I sort of nights out. And yeah, my hobby's the gym basically. Other than that, if I'm not working, that's about the only other place I'll be. And it's the same. I know I like how you said with the audio books. I know I can't remember. There's a name. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a guy I sort of followed. He sort of said about that recently. Rather than going to the gym, rather than sort of having music on, he kind of
Yeah,
has an audio book. So he's kind of
yeah,
getting double thing learning, getting the time to catch
yeah.
up. And that is something, yeah, I was thinking of kind of introducing a little bit when I'm training. So
I would really
it's kind of
recommend it to anyone. I really would. And if you look at any of the big motivational speeches that are about, you might be into it, you might not. But what I found all these big CEOs or these big celebrities, they all have in common is a lot of them do a lot of self work. You don't have to take it to the extreme of going and sitting in a field by yourself for an hour. But what a lot of them do say is, to discover yourself work on yourself to improve, whether that be in your relationship, whether that be in work, whether that be in home, whatever it may be, is a lot of these sort of key figures, they read. And something I've learned recently is, I think it was Elon Musk I was listening to, and I don't normally, but I was watching this interview on him, and he was saying that, you've got access to all these people who have lived for hundreds of years before us, and we've got all this knowledge there, and you can sit and read one of their books, and it's like you're sat with them. It's like you're getting the knowledge and the information. And I really enjoy that because it might not be something I'm specifically interested in, but if you can read a little bit about different subjects, you pick up a little bit about different things. And especially for business, I've been on a real CEO trip recently where I'm listening to all these different bosses and managers and seeing their different avenues of how they work their business and what they find works for them and how to keep employees happy and customers. And I think it can only be a good thing. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. The more you can read or get the audiobooks in. I've sort of stopped listening to music so much, and I now always just pop on an audiobook and
yeah,
listen
like
to
you say,
that.
yeah, there's people who have done it before. Most of us aren't, even if we're in business,
Yeah.
99% of it isn't original.
No.
There's people have done it, they've had the problems we've had before. They've probably worked out an answer for it or at least got you there
Yeah.
quicker. So yeah, tapping into that knowledge, and especially nowadays with like how the internet is, it's just, imagine like 20
It's
years ago, it
funny
wasn't like
because
the same even.
yeah, yeah, but it's funny because the tactics and the times have changed, but the principles don't. So I've just
Yeah.
finished a book called As a Man Thinketh, and it's for men and women. That's what it's titled, but it actually came out in 1902. And it's a 55-minute audio book. And when you listen to it, the principles haven't changed, even though we've moved on so far. It's the same principles. It's just the software and the way we do things have changed, but the key principles, they remain the same. So it is
Yeah.
it is interesting. It really is.
And a lot of things, we're still dealing with people at the end of the day, and we're going to react different. I think some things are just a lot of stuff happens a lot faster now, and a
Yeah.
different way. But again, yeah, I think a lot of the sort of principles are really the same things, just packaged differently or applied
Yeah.
differently. Been good speaking to you so far. Is there anything else on Cosmedicheck that you want to share today is
I mean,
important?
from my point of view, I would just say to anyone who's interested, just go on and have a look. It's cosmedicheck.com. You can go on there. You don't have to sign up. A lot of the content on there is all accessible, so you don't need to sign up to anything as a client. It's a free sign up anyway. Professionals, there is a low membership cost in, which goes back into the professionals. It goes back into the SEO and our advertising so we can promote them more. But I would just say, if there's anything you're unsure of, you can reach out to us there. We might be able to give help and advice for training or masterclasses. We've got a blog that we update every month as well with different subjects on. So I would just say, it's worth looking. And even if it's not for you, you can go on there and say, well, there's a blog post that I like, this, that, and the other. But for client purposes, it really is, this is going to be a game changer to really help people. But yeah, that's all I would really say on it. I'm not going to sit here and sell it to everyone. So you need to get on there. But the reason why it's, such a great platform is because we've seen what works in our clinic, in what we would benefit from, and then we've put it into there and given everyone access to it. So that was kind of our basis, is let's build a community for everyone. We're not biased about one type of group of people or the other. It's meant for everyone.
And I will sell it a bit for you. I would definitely encourage people to go and check it out. I think definitely if you're a client and you want to search out, get to understand who might be doing your treatment a bit better, it's definitely helpful. And also, yeah, as a sort of professional going on, the fee's well worth the money, and the stuff's going back in, it's being reinvested essentially, so it's kind of going to save you money on other stuff. I will link to it all and on the social in the descriptions wherever we're watching this. So Joe, thank you for your time. I
No
will
worries. Thanks for having me.
speaking to you again soon.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll answer them, or I can pass them on to Joe and the guys at Cosmedicheck. I'm sure they'll get back to anyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.